about your Saudi expansion at the moment. Perfect. Great. And I would assume the rest of you here for Dubai, yeah? Breakfast. Great. For breakfast. Oh, okay. Good stuff. No worries at all for that. But yeah, so as I mentioned, like, the MENA region is actually such a growing region right now. And for those of you guys who are set up here in Dubai, I know the next logical step would be basically to go to Saudi. And a lot of times it's not as easy as how you set it up here in Dubai. There's so many other things to think about, so many other factors to take into consideration. And this is why Sultan here is going to be telling you more about it. Just as an introduction about myself, my name is Anwar Parani. I'm the Dubai Expansion Manager here at Astrolabs. And Sultan?
Yeah, my name is Sultan, and I'm the KSA expansion specialist and consultant, so I will be guiding you through the whole process when it comes to Saudi Arabia.
Perfect. So I think we should kick things off with the whole Saudi side of things and MENA as a whole.
Start about Saudi Arabia. So just want to give a little bit brief about the kingdom. So as you all know, it's one of the largest country in the Middle East is Saudi Arabia, and there is an economic growth that's going all over. There is a lot of initiatives is funded by the government, and it's the largest country right now in the world with the number of mega projects. The increase of population, it went from 23 million to right now 36 million, and they want to reach 45 million to 50 million in 2030. That's a very ambitious plan, but we see they are on track because we have seen the flow of companies are coming on, especially for the past 5 years, 6 years, when they opened foreign investment into the kingdom, right? So, and also the GDP growth is 200 billion, and now it's 833. In 2023, they are expecting to be 900 to $1 trillion, and they are on the track to do that because last year Saudi Arabia had 8.7 GDP growth, and it was the fastest growth by percentage among the G20 countries, like ever recorded for the G20s. Number one, 8.7, and this year, 2022 was 833. This year, 2023, a lot of projection they're expecting between 900 to $1 trillion, and they will be like the first Arab country or the Middle East country to be more than $1 trillion GDP, gross domestic product. All right, and there is a lot of industries in Saudi Arabia, as you are aware of it. So fintech, construction, digital marketing, e-commerce, energy, and all these industries are growing on a fast pace in all the cities. It's not like focus in Riyadh because Saudi Arabia has different cities, different region. And any of these regions, they say like, we need to make this city for construction or for manufacturing. The cities nearby the ports are for different region, right? And also recently, just 2 weeks ago, Saudi Arabia established new economic zones. Most of these economic zones are actually for trading and rigs, ships, and marine and maritime industries. They are free zone. They call the Saudi economic free zone. They just launched. There are incentives on the VAT, so there is no 15% VAT in Saudi, and there is a lot of. They will be exempted from some of the Saudization laws of for hiring. It's still new. It's just 2 weeks ago, so we need to go dig deeper because they just launched these things. But what we will be talking about and what Astrolab helps is actually the normal, as you call it, mainland license, which is called MISA license. Okay, we are specialized of helping from A to Z. So all the whole process when it comes to setting up the business in Saudi Arabia, we take care of it. So in Saudi, a lot of when you it's not the same like UAE or any other countries. When you want to set up a business in Saudi Arabia, you need to you cannot just do it from scratch as an individual. Your name as a person cannot be an individual shareholder of the company. The company in Saudi has to be backed from your existence entity outside of the country. It could be UAE, US, doesn't matter. There are some regulation and requirement documents from these companies abroad, but first of all, you need to understand what kind of business you will do. There is a lot and tons of licenses in Saudi Arabia to operate under. There is trading license, services license, agricultural license, professional license, and each of these licenses have different requirement and criteria to enter the market. Of course, the most common one is a service license. A lot of industries fall under service, such as like media, marketing, advertisement, software, cybersecurity, construction, all falls under. Also logistic, aviation, handling of cargo, all of that, it falls under a service license. We also help with the address. It's compulsory to have an address in Saudi Arabia. So we duplicated what we have here in Dubai, and we did the same in Saudi. So we have a co-working space, and in the co-working space you will have a community. There is like-minded individual that you can connect with, network with, and we run events also at the space over there. And after the setup of the business, we have a team to take care if you want us to be your PRO, or we have a post setup services if we want us to handle your employees, the enrollment of them, and also visas, residency for any upcoming employee you have. So we have also post setup services. Yeah. So the process in Saudi involves of 20 steps. There is 20 steps involved in the process of setting up a business in Saudi Arabia. So the first, after you gather the information, you know what's the activity, you know the industry you will doing in Saudi, we divided them into 3 different stages. So stage 1 is just to have a legal entity, a legal presence. On this stage, you can say, like if you have a client, you can show that client that you have a CR. A CR, it's equivalent to a trade license in the UAE. In Saudi, they call it CR. It stands for commercial registration. Right now, when you have a CR, you are a legal Saudi entity. However, you cannot conduct business yet because there's a lot of things involved. There's a prerequisite steps. You cannot hire because you need Ministry of Labor, right? You cannot issue visas because you need an entity. You cannot issue invoices because there is no VAT number and taxation certificate, right? So there's a lot of prerequisite of the stages. So the stage 1 is the license, the article of association, the listing of the director of the company, so on and so forth, and then also Chamber of Commerce registration and the CR. Then stage 2 is the ministries that your company needs to register at. There is Ministry of Labor, there is Social Insurance, and also there is a taxation authority. So the VAT in Saudi is not 5% like the UAE, it's 15%. It works the same as here. So when you invoice, they will be added a 15% VAT instead of 5%. Another thing on the corporate tax, in Saudi there is 20% corporate tax on net profit. The filing of tax has to take place every quarter. So this is one of the regulatory part. Like a lot of people, they ask like, when can we file our tax, or what is the corporate tax if there is any? And they get surprised, especially coming from Europe. So yes, in Saudi has a corporate tax, but it's also only on net profit. There is no threshold on the revenue and profit your company needs to make. The government there will not ask you if you don't make a profit, you will get fined or penalty. No, they don't have such a thing. So this is just to make things easier for everyone. We also, I mentioned about the co-working space we have. So they will have a national address certificate. So that national address, why it's compulsory and why we need it when we set up a business in Saudi Arabia, because we cannot apply for the taxation, open a bank account, and sometimes the visa without providing them with the address certificate. On that, the company will be registered under our co-working space initially. If a company have an office, they have a partner there, we can register them under that partner. But just to make things easier, we got this back from our company as Astro Labs. Then the last phase, so all of this, it will take place before even the director or anyone from your company come to Saudi. Once the general manager or the director listed on the article of association, he needs to fly into Saudi Arabia. Then when he flies in, this is the finalizing phase. On this process, you can start doing business because you will go to the Chamber of Commerce to activate the account. You get the medical checkup to do the fitness test, and we take care of that. We accompany you to all of these entities, and also they need a health insurance in order to issue a residency card. A Saudi residency card is called Iqama card. And then there are portals here for PRO services like wage protection, payroll system, sponsorship transfer, etc. Muqim, Abshir, Qiwa, and Mudad. We will register you in these portals. And then after, the last step of the whole process is actually open a bank account. The bank account, there is a requirement for it. Our Astro Labs work with different banks. We have partners with HSBC, Emirates NBD, Riyadh Bank, etc. So all of that will be handled through Astro Labs as well, and we assist you open a bank account. The bank account will not take long. Like you can submit the application in a month time, even less sometimes. It depends on the bank. Some banks takes only 1 week. Like if you want to work with a local bank, international bank maybe takes a week. You just submit and fly out. And that's it. The general manager doesn't need to live in Saudi Arabia, by the way. He can just fly in and out, back and forth. There is in Saudi something called re-entry visa. Re-entry visa. So If you want to leave in Saudi, you need to apply for visa. But most of companies or GMs or director, they will just apply for 1 year multiple entry visa, and then they can fly in and out as much. They don't need to live there at all. But they just need to apply for it. It's on a portal online. It will be applied on Muqim portal.
You need to visit every 6 months.
It depends on your re-entry visa. So if you apply, your re-entry visa is 1 year multiple, you can visit a day in a 12 month. Exactly, a day in a 12 month. But if yours is single entry, 6 months, then you need to fly. It depends. And each of these, they have 3 month single, 3 months multiple, 6 month single, etc. So they have all the options. So you choose. All right. So yeah. So this is how things in Saudi, how to incorporate, what we take care of, and also the regulatory part of it. I will let my colleague Anwar explain more about Dubai expansion, and then we. Yeah.
Question. Is it mandatory to open a bank account in Saudi?
I mean, if you don't open a bank account, there is no any issues with the government when it comes to when you renew next year. When it comes to renewal, you need to submit just taxation certificate and your residency, the general manager residency, and to pay the fees for the license, right? They will not ask for the bank, but it's always better just to open a bank account for the company because it doesn't take long. It's just an application, and we do it already in the process. Yeah.
What kind of legal entity are you talking about?
It will be a subsidiary or a branch. You can choose. You can choose a subsidiary or a branch. We always advise a subsidiary compared to a branch. Yeah, there is a slightly difference of it.
Is it something like what is it more similar to a regular LLC?
It's an LLC. It's an individual LLC subsidiary foreign investment license.
Okay.
It's quite a long name.
How about the requirement to employ locals?
Yeah.
What is the requirement?
So the Saudization quota is 1 to 3. One local Saudi for every 3 expatriates. This is for residencies.
In the start, if you have just the director?
No need.
No.
No, of course, the director is already exempted from this quota.
Okay. So you need, let's say, a local person only when you reach how many employees?
No, you cannot. Like a director can fly in, get his residency card under the company. Later on, if you want to employ one expat, you cannot unless you have a local in the system. So the system can open the 3 visa for you.
So first needs to be always local.
Yes, the first if you want to hire foreigners, like expatriates. Yeah.
You mean the second person after the director
Exactly. Has to be Saudi, so you can have the eligibility for 3 residency visa and to be able to issue business visa. Because you cannot issue business visa as well if you don't want to also add them as a residence in your company. Like you don't want them to give them the residency card. You can just fly them as business visit visa.
Does it have to be really like a local citizen or some expat who's been living in Saudi for 20 years?
A local citizen. The minimum wage is 4,000 riyal. 4,000 riyal a month, that's the minimum wage. We also have a recruitment department, Astrolabs Talent, so we can help you with the sourcing, interviewing, also enrolling the Saudi local in the business. Yeah.
What other the expenses that you can expect to pay other than the Astra or the office, like for the government directly?
So next year, there is fees for a lot of these ministries and license. There is fees of these PRO portals. There are fees for the MISA license. MISA license fee is 62,000 riyal a year. 62,000 flat.
No matter what business you're doing.
Exactly. No matter what business you're doing. This is the biggest amount of money. Other things is like 1,500, 700, like more than 650. Yeah, this is the big chunk of the fees is 62,000 for the MISA license. Yeah. Yeah, every year. There is another license. It's a MISA license, but it is not 62,000. It's 2,000, but that's entrepreneur license. An entrepreneur license is just a status, but it will need to go under the Ministry of Investment review, and there is a lot of documents submitted additional to get the entrepreneur license, such as like endorsement from a venture capital, or you have an equity firm as a shareholder who is investing in the business. You have a well-known angel investor. Like, why they need to give you an entrepreneur license? Because you need to submit them to show them the credibility. You are actually an entrepreneur. There is VCs interested in you. There's a lot of. It's a most complex situation. Yes.
One more question, which I also registered, the push on having subsidiary legal entities head office for the region.
RSP. Okay, RHQ. So this push is actually when your company is working with the Saudi government. Actually, the deadline is January 2024. So no company whatsoever, they can work with the government if they don't have an RHQ in Saudi, so they can bid on the project, on the tender projects from the Saudi government. If you're working with the private companies, it's not an issue. But a lot of private companies, they want you to have an office there. They don't need you to be an RHQ. At least you have a MISA, so you can give them your license. Oh, I am there. Yeah.
Because how do you evaluate that you have the head office over there?
There is a license. It's separate. It's not it's a different license. So this is a MISA license process, operational one. Okay. And also there is an RHQ license which is separate to that. Yeah, there is. The cost for it is different. It's of course a little bit cheaper than this. Yeah, but that's only for bidding on the project for the Saudi government. Yeah, please.
Can the company with the entrepreneur license bid for the government business?
Yeah, 100%. Yeah.
Can it freeze on can a freeze on company bid for the government?
We still don't
You
know.
don't know yet.
It's just new.
What's your take? What do you think?
I think if it's in the free zone, like the project is actually within the free zone. I mean, there is, if you bid on Saudi project, you know the portal, I'timad portal, which is the government bidding thing, they tell you what can you, what you cannot. But entrepreneur license is exactly like a normal license. It's just a status to not pay 62,000 and you just pay 2,000 only for 3 years.
And can the company under the license be not a branch or extension business, but just the
From scratch?
yeah?
No. You need to be a branch of an existing business, but there is a lot of documents they will exempt you from submitting, right? And that company has to be existed outside of Saudi for almost at minimum more than a year. Like 1 year, they accept it. Less than a year, no.
So you just create a company here
And wait a year.
get the endorsement from local VC, and then get the license.
Yes, exactly. And you need to prepare a pitch deck. Like you are actually pitching the Ministry of Investment that please accept us as an entrepreneur because this is our pitch deck. So they will go through bidding, but if your idea is unique and you have a startup brief, you have a well-known VC, it will be accepted. And also you need to pick the activities and you make it very tailored to the Saudi market.
Can I ask a stupid question? What's
No,
what if
stupid
that's-
question is stupid.
Next, what if that's foreign company? Is the Cayman Islands holding?
Yeah, 100%, no worries.
It can be
We did it a lot of actually startups come from BVI, British Virgin Island, Cayman Island, and Bahama. Like this is the majority.
Do you have any shelf Cayman Island companies that they're holding 1 year?
We don't do that, but there is a lot of companies actually doing that. Surprisingly, we have companies like well-established, big company. Like we thought they are from Spain or Germany, and they are in Bahama or in the Cayman Islands. So yeah. So but Saudi don't have any restriction on the company location as long as the documents they need, and it's a credible thing. Like it's a real company, they will come do business, etc. Yeah. Any more questions on this?
Maybe there is a difference if you establish a subsidiary as a European company, or is it a by branch?
No difference at all. It's only the documents will be a little bit easier in Europe to attest them because you need trade license of the parent company, you need the article of association of the parent company. In the UAE, you need to attest them from Ministry of Foreign Affairs and Saudi Embassy. In Europe, Saudi and most of European countries, they all under the Hague Convention, so they will be easier for you. Just apostle them and then send them back. It's just like a matter of which more convenient for you. But as a process, it's the same thing. So,
Well, I mean, actually, I think that's a pretty good segue into speaking about the UAE, because as I mentioned before, I think usually the next step for UAE-based companies is to go into Saudi. And as Zoltan was mentioning, that you can't just go into Saudi if you don't have any sort of like history of your company in any way whatsoever, right? So that's why a lot of people actually, a lot of our members here in the space actually set up here first, get that history, pilot maybe their projects out. The infrastructure here is a little bit stronger than in Saudi right now at the moment. And even from a hiring perspective when they're scaling their teams and things like that. So I'll tell you a little bit more about the UAE as a whole and Dubai and how Ash Labs actually helps companies set up here. And then also help them scale and transition over into Saudi as well with Sultan and his team over there. But just as like a brief economic overview about the UAE, just like in Saudi, there's been a massive growth when it comes to GDP over between 2003 and 2022. And you can see a big shift in type of like leading industries here as well. You know, so going more into the tech space, fintech and AI, digital marketing, SaaS, you know. And if we're looking into Dubai specifically, you can see a very similar trend, as you can see, right? Digital marketing, Web3, AI, fintech, all of that, and as well as with the GDP growth and GDP per capita as well. Also, huge growth in population. As you guys can see with everything going on in the world, how many people, I bet you all of your rents have gone up like crazy, because right? Because everybody's basically moving here, right? With everybody going into more of like a remote working style, looking at the tax benefits that are associated with the UAE as well. It just makes a lot of people are looking to move here, not just from an economic point of view, but even just a lifestyle point of view as well, you know? But yeah, just to kind of go into a little bit more in depth about the UAE in general. Number one in VC funding in the MENA at the moment. Maybe Saudi will overtake us soon enough. But yeah, and in terms of like, you know, if you're in the e-commerce space, e-commerce is valued at $12 billion. You know, 70% of all Fortune 500 companies have their headquarters, regional headquarters here based in Dubai as well. So just like your access to the types of different companies, the infrastructure that we have in place here, just like makes it such a business friendly place to initially set up your business, especially when you're looking to expand into the region. And yeah, just a few other things. So infrastructure and facilities, startup support. So startup support, working with somebody like us at Astro Labs who partner with the free zones here, like the DMCC specifically, to provide things like subsidized license, provide things like a community here, soft landing positions, access to investors. So having that kind of support network and support system in a place like the UAE makes it such a business-friendly place to initially start off, as well as obviously entrepreneurial culture, funding opportunities. Some of the largest VCs are actually regionally headquartered here as well. And we at Astro Labs actually partner with a lot of them as well, and I'll talk about more about that in the next slides. Yeah, and I think this is the biggest one, I think, out of all of it. That's why I left it as its own slide. 0% corporate and income taxes is one additional benefit, 100% ability to have a foreign-owned company, as well as 100% repatriation of capital as well. So I think these are some really important factors for people when they're looking to move over here. Especially like from a repatriation point of view, we're setting up a lot of Egyptian companies, for example. They have a huge issue when it comes to repatriating money, and even sometimes in India as well. So that's why a lot of the companies and Pakistan are looking to actually set up over here. It makes it a lot easier for them to deal with international clients and repatriation of money as well. Now, how does Astro Labs basically help you? Then what does Astro Labs actually do? You know, so I'm sure a lot of you guys have looked at our website and you're like, okay, we don't really understand. Are you guys an incubator? Do you guys help set companies up? Are you guys an academy? Like, what is it? And to kind of, a long story short and a short answer to that, we're a bit of everything. So we are a tech ecosystem builder, right? So we help companies from a market expansion point of view, whether that's from a Dubai side or from the Saudi side as well, by providing them with licenses, by providing them soft landing positions, by providing them access to potential investors, access to other entrepreneurs and other companies within the space. And in addition to that, we also have our programs division where we run and manage incubator and accelerator programs for large government entities, big corporations. So we're not an incubator and accelerator in the traditional sense, but what we do is it's almost like a white label solution. So let's say, for example, a government entity will come to us and say that they want to run a program for, I don't know, the fintech space, for example. They'll tell us what that outcome is, and we will develop that program for that specific outcome, you know? By the end of these, and as you guys can see at the bottom, we've done them for big corporations, large government entities, things like that. And by the end of it, so for example, with Majid Al Futtaim, we had a few winners that were part of their accelerator program as well. They either got amalgamated into Majid Al Futtaim itself, so they got bought out, or they were able to actually sell their products in every Majid Al Futtaim store or mall in the region, basically. So huge opportunity for them from that point of view as well. And then finally, we also have our talent division as well. So as Sultan mentioned, we do help hire the best tech talent in the region and consult from a Saudiization point of view as well in terms of like what the best ways of going about doing that is as well. What's that? It's relatively new. I think we've been doing it for the last 2 years now.
2 or 3 years.
2 or 3 years? 2 years? Yeah, there you go. What's that?
This is the first time I know about it.
Yeah, definitely, because I think we saw that gap in the market as well.
All the connections.
Yeah, exactly, right? And we had like a lot of startups in our community who were scaling. That's number one from the Dubai side. And then once we actually expanded into Saudi, we realized like Saudiization is a big factor that people really need to get into consideration. And we had the people in place to actually help consult that in the best way as well. So yeah, it's relatively new, but it's actually been working really well. And it's a good added service that we can actually provide for members looking to transition over into Saudi as well. And as you can see, we've actually hired for some big companies here too. So when we're looking at the Dubai community in itself, as I mentioned, we partner with the DMCC directly, The reason being is we are able to provide subsidized licenses for those who actually set up with the DMCC if they fall under specific categories, and we can kind of go into that in more depth. But since 2015, we've actually helped set up over 800 companies here in the UAE through the DMCC. Those companies, so in 2022 alone, the companies actively in our space raised over $300 million. We had 3 successful exits as well. And these companies kind of fall into specific categories too. We've got those homegrown startups such as like Fresha and Love in Dubai and People, to those who've actually expanded into the region as well. So the likes of Builder.ai, Deliveroo, and Dawn Health. One thing that we're super proud about as well, we've had actually 5 of Forbes' most funded startups here in the MENA region as part of our community that we actually helped establish here as well. So the likes of SethTech, Trucker, BitOasis, and Trella are some of them. So makes our community really strong. We're really proud about that. And those who are within the community itself gives you the access for you to be able to connect with some of these guys, you know, which is really great. And we can help facilitate those introductions as well. So if you're looking into the community as a whole, so what's in it for you if you join AshLab as a community in itself? So you get access to over 200 tech entrepreneurs that are currently in the space, access to over 100 mentors. So I know you and I discussed about that before. As well as access to monthly investment opportunities. We have weekly networking events, access to technology and talent recruitment, as well as to our partner investors as well. So those who are looking to actively fundraise here in Dubai as well, we partner with some of the biggest VCs here in the region. So the likes of Flat 6 Labs, SOSV, WAMDA, Becca Capital, and Middle East Venture Partners as well. So how does that work? So let's say, for example, you are a community member and you say, you know what, I think I'm ready to actively fundraise. We can help in two fronts. Number one would be, okay, let's say you're kind of like a early stage startup and you don't know how you want to actually start getting investment. We've got support contacts that can help you develop your pitch deck, help you develop your MVP further. We do like series of events in the space, and you can have one-on-one sessions with mentors and companies that can help you kind of develop that further. Now, let's say you've gotten to the stage whereby you're like, you know what, I think I'm ready to fundraise and I'm ready to raise capital. At this point, we actually have a list of those who are actively fundraising in our community, and all of our VC partners have access to this of this list. And we update this list every 2 months or so. And we just let them know, like, hey guys, we've updated the list. And just to give you an example, last month, SOSV reached out to me and they were just like, hey, there was like 5 companies on there that they thought they would be interested in, and we just basically made the introduction accordingly. You know, so it just makes, we can't guarantee that you will get investment, but we provide an environment that's conducive to your success, basically. So this is actually my favorite side of them all. It basically just shows the diversity of our community, all in all, you know. We've got IT and software development companies to gaming companies like Ubisoft, which is really big. We've got F&B companies like El Grocer, who was just bought up by Etisalat. That was one of the exits from last year. So yeah, it just kind of shows that diversity. So let's say, for example, you guys decide you want to join AshLab's community, and you say, okay, I want to get connected to people in, let's say, the education industry, for example. We would then send you a list, and you would say, I want to get connected to company A, company C, company D, and we would then facilitate those introductions from a partnership perspective, business development perspective, whatever that may be. You know, so again, it saves a lot of time for those who are expanding into the region. Because, you know, sometimes you just don't know where to start, right? Like you may do a really cheap setup somewhere and come here and you're like, then what? You know, like, how do I meet people? How do I start getting connected to, getting plugged into an ecosystem? How do I find investors? You know, so we kind of are that conduit for that, for those introductions as well. So this is kind of a little bit more about our relationship with the DMCC as a whole. The reason why we actually set up with them in general is they've been rated the #1 free zone in the world for the last 8 years. It just makes your life a lot easier. You can actually start the application process remotely. You don't actually have to be here to do that. So their portal actually works relatively well. On top of that, we actually also provide a subsidized license for them. So if you're a tech-enabled company, we are able to actually help provide a 95% subsidy on the license. Right, so there's a massive cost difference. And for those of you guys who want a little bit more details about the numbers, we can have a chat after the session. But yeah, we can provide a 95% subsidy in your first year to actually get you hitting the ground running basically faster in a more cost-effective manner, while also providing you a soft landing position here, whereby we can actually then connect you to other like-minded individuals as well. In addition to that, you can pick up to 6 business activities. You get 5 visa allocations with 1 desk with us as well. So there's all these added benefits that you get as being a part of the AshLabs community, in addition to just getting the subsidized license as well. But yeah, so that's everything from the Dubai side of things. I'd be happy to answer any questions, and if you had any more questions on the Saudi side of things, we'd be happy to answer.
For a company to be part of
Like, what do you mean? Like,
So you obviously have so much other benefits other than the establishment itself.
Mhm.
So how can an already established company get benefits from the other sources?
Definitely. So we have two different types of memberships that we have here. So we've got our licensed membership, which makes up 70% of our community, right? So those who've actually helped get the DMCC license, all that. The other 30% are those who've already established, let's say, an ADGM or another free zone, but they'd like to just use the co-working space and have that. So we actually have co-working memberships for that, right? Whereby if you've already been set up, you can have a co-working membership here and still take advantage of some of the benefits that you get out of there as well. Yeah, and I can send you the details for that too.
If the company is planning to market their products and services via public events, Astrolab can support that force from marketing perspective.
Yeah, so like we do events in the space, as you know, right? So what do you mean?
No, I mean in Saudi as well as Dubai.
Yeah.
The company is working on public events
Mhm.
beyond Astrolab venues, but public events, and they want to be selective in their invitation. They want to use Astrolab network to invite key customers for such events.
Mhm.
Can Astrolab step in as a partner or as a support to such events?
Definitely, yeah. We've done that for clients in the past, or our members in the past. So yeah, we can definitely do that. So let's say you have a specific event and you want to have specific, like people in specific industries invited to those events. We'd be more than happy to send it to our community members for them to come and to those events as well, in Saudi and over here, for sure. Yeah.
You mentioned 0% taxation, but then the corporate tax is coming up.
So the corporate tax is more towards mainland companies, right? So mainland companies are going to be introducing a 9% corporate tax starting from June 1st. That is still not the case for free zone companies.
Not for any reason?
Yeah, at the moment, you never know if they'll change the rules, but at the moment, it's not. No free zone companies are going to be affected by the 9% tax.
But VAT is for all companies in DMCC.
Yeah.
5% you pay VAT.
Yep, exactly. Yeah, so you still have VAT regardless, but in terms of the corporate tax, the 9% corporate tax, that's not going to be levied on any free zone companies at the moment.
Okay, so for example, if a company is registered or the brand is registered for the free zone and then they want to start with the FCC. So then still that discounted rate applies, or the company has to be fresh new to start?
Well, I mean, the discount for the subsidized license applies to if you're getting a new license, right? So, for example, if you already have an established company and you just want to have your work out of Astrolabs, for example, you can't actually have your registered address at Astrolabs. So let's say, for example, you've set up at Dubai Silicon Oasis, for example, right? And you need to have a registered address in that jurisdiction. You know what I mean? To have that license active, basically, right? You could still use the co-working space, but you'll still be paying for an address there, right? But then you'll also be paying for a co-working space over here to take advantage of the community and all that. That being said, we have companies here who've actually done that. So we've got People, a big fintech company that have 52 people working out of our space here. They actually were initially registered at ADGM, right? And then they moved here. They eventually ended up getting a license with us after. It just made more sense for them. But they did the same because they want to take advantage here, but you'll still need to keep an address. Yeah. So then you can avail from the subsidized license for sure because you're getting a brand new DMCC license, right? So you'll be able to do that. So if you're getting a new license, you can definitely avail from the subsidized rate. Yeah.
Just to clarify the visa. So when you start company, there is a five visa. Then you can increase this number, but you need to have more working space here. So how it works?
Yeah, exactly. So with the first desk, you get 5 visa quotas, as you mentioned. We always do them in blocks of 5. So let's say, for example, you get 1 desk, 5. For every 2 additional desks you add physically here in the space, you get another 5 visa quotas. Okay, so like first one, 5, for 3, 10, 5, 15, and so on, right? That's how it works. Now, we also have an option where we also offer like a fully remote setup option as well, or a semi-virtual membership option as well. So what you could do is, let's say, for example, you guys have a physical desk here in the space, you get the 5 visa quotas. If you add 1 semi-virtual or virtual option, we can give you another 5 visa quotas as well. So you can go with either or. It all really depends on your needs. So if you actually need physical people here, then that's how it works.
And there is no limitation. If you want to have 50 people, we just increase desks. No any limits. No applying to DMCC.
Exactly. Yeah. So all we would do at that point, we just issue you another tenancy, depending on the number of desks that you need. Issue you more tenancy letters. You would upload that on the DMCC portal under like it's called an address change, but it's actually you're adding an additional unit code, and then you would avail from the five additional visa quotas each time. So yeah, that's where our relationship with the DMCC becomes strong, right? Because it's very flexible and they allow us to do that. Oh yeah.
I think you didn't mention the best part out of it. I just want to say that for me, what's really important, being part of the community as last since team here, what I found the most useful in the setup is that if I'm here now and if I need to go to meeting in Riyadh, it takes 5 hours door to door to be in the same working space in Aslan in Riyadh.
Exactly.
5 hours, yeah.
Yeah.
Including the taxi, the airport, checking flights, and then taxi to the Aslan. So we are like in the space in the same community. So
Definitely. And honestly, yeah, you're absolutely right. We did not actually mention that. So that's
Yeah.
a very strong part of it too. So as an Astrolabs member here, you have access to our space in Riyadh, right? As in our co-working space, as well as access to that community too.
And
You know?
it's like very close to the airport. There's almost no traffic,
Mhm.
and it's like easy to use the same app, Kareem, to get there. So yeah, there's legit 5 hours.
Have you used our co-working space in Riyadh yet?
Yeah,
Oh, nice. And how do you like it so far?
it's really good. It has this nice rooftop.
Yeah, I know. They keep telling us about that all the time. You know? Yeah, I haven't gone yet, but they keep saying it. We have this rooftop. It's so nice. You know? So.
And of course, it's vice versa.
What's that? And vice versa, yeah, definitely. You know, either or. We actually have this really cool story. There was this company over here who's in the sustainability field, like sustainable energy, and he was actually visiting Riyadh, and he said, "Oh, can I use the co-working space there?" So he goes there, and it just so happens I got him introduced to Makram at the time, and Makram's like, "Oh, let me just introduce you to this guy. I think he'd be like a really cool introduction for you." Minister of Energy of Saudi Arabia was sitting there with his team. Right, and they ended up getting connected, and he would have never met this guy or even had any connection to this person if he hadn't gone to the co-working space and met with him there.
Yeah.
You know, so
and there's
these
a
are
lot
so
of
amazing.
companies actually they are here and there. So we have companies they already in our co-working space here, but they already open a subsidiary or a branch Saudi, and they have employees there as
Yeah.
well. So we have a couple of like we have a Fresha before.
Fresha, yeah.
Fresha were here. They just left recently, not a while ago, and they I think in a
Love
year.
in Dubai is there too, right?
Yeah, they are in Dubai. So they open a branch in Saudi. Now their office, they have a team of 7. After that, but imagine people like they have team here, they have team here in the same company. Here and there, different teams. They have Saudi people 5, 6 here, 10, 15 here. So we also have that in the space. Yeah.
So I think you had a question as well.
So as someone who just landed here, can you please help me define the difference between visa of countries and other types? And like what is the 9% ruling that you said that applies to desert type?
Yeah, definitely. So that's a really good question. So when people are initially setting up here, when you're going a quick Google, it's like mainland, free zone, and all that, right? So you can either set up your company as a mainland company or as a free zone company. Now, neither one of them is right or wrong. It just really comes down to the type of business activities that you decide to do. So for mainland companies, those who like physically import or export goods, store goods, or work with government entities directly, a mainland setup would work better for you. The reason for the government entities, the prerequisite for you to even invoice any government entities here is for you to have a mainland setup for you to be able to do that. So that would work better. Then you've got free zone, and then you're like, okay, there's 45 different free zones here in the UAE. Which one works best for me? They've also compartmentalized the free zones in such a way whereby, depending on what industry you're in, a particular free zone would work better for you. So let's say, for example, you're in the manufacturing sector, right? A place like the Jabal Ali free zone would work really well because of the fact that all the manufacturing facilities are there, the logistic companies are there, the port's literally right there, the port authority's right there, so it's a lot easier for you to deal with them, right? Let's say you're in strictly a finance sector, you're opening up a bank. A place like the DIFC would work really well for you, right? If you're like a bank or a law firm, Big Four consultancy, things like that, they tend to set up in a place like DIFC. Now, if you're in the tech industry, a place like the DMCC, Dubai Internet City, Dubai Silicon Oasis, these are other companies. The reason being, the type of companies you're surrounded around, the type of business activities that they allow you to select are very like tech heavy and tech focused. And then you've got communities like this where you can actually be a part of these ecosystems and be a part of it to help you kind of scale and grow. So it just really comes down to the type of business activity that you wanna do. What I could do is maybe after this we'll have a chat. You can tell me a little bit more about your business, and I could probably consult you in a better way. Yeah, no worries.
I have an online question.
He's special, man, you know? Yeah, yeah.
So question is, do you also help companies registered in other than DMCC free zone?
So with us, we specifically work with the DMCC directly because of the fact that we can offer that subsidized license. And we've had this relationship with them for over 10 years now. So we specifically only work with the DMCC as of now. And then in Saudi with MISA, yeah?
MISA, Ministry.
Sorry, is Saudi visa?
MISA. No, it's different. In Saudi, the MISA is the Ministry of Investment of Saudi Arabia. MISA license. But MISA is quite, if you think about it now, after they introduced the free zones, so MISA it looks like a mainland compared to the other free zones. This free zone they just introduced just recently. We need to dig deeper of what's the regulatory part, what's the requirement, how companies, what's the activities in these free zones, because we have just the all activities, 7,000 codes of business activity for the mainland. But these free zones, we need to know what activity only on that specific free zone. And of course, once we have, and we need to talk with these free zones. And then once we have this information, of course, we're going to publish it. We'll talk about it in more details. Also, the government themselves, they will also do so. Yeah.
Before it was Saudi, right?
Sagia, before it was an authority. It wasn't a ministry. It was Saudi Authority of Investment, and then they changed it. It became a ministry in 2016. So it's changed from Sagia to MISA. Yeah.
Nice. Is there any other questions, guys? Alfred, anybody online? We're good? Okay. Well, thank you guys so much for coming. Thanks, and I hope you guys found this useful. Good stuff. Thanks, guys.